Greetings everyone and welcome to the BlastCast. I am Jarvis, with me always is the bastion of common sense, Lightning Dragon. I went retro on that one.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Let's get into some Star Citizen news. One of the big things that they had going on there, to me, was the fact that they finally addressed that bug where you come out of quantum travel and your ship spins out of control. I have been subject to that one quite a few times, as I suppose the rest of you have as well.
Pretty sure it's happened to me as well.
Oh yeah. Now I'm going to show some of the footage and things that they've had from around the Versus week in the background. Not kind of the things I want to focus on, but if you want to see what's going on, I'll make sure they're all labeled up for you and all that, so we'll be good. But in the meantime, let's get into, since it was a ship shape episode, all the fun stuff that's coming out. The 300 rework is in design review. The 100i is concept complete. The Orion is on hold with no current ETA.
Boo!
The Crack is in gray box. Now, according to the numbers, 64 ships have gone through the pipeline, and there's 55 left to go until next week when they unveil 30 new ships.
or 3 new ships and 10 new variants each.
Exactly. Speaking of new ships and variants, Crusader Industries' Hercules Starlifter came out, and this is actually one I'm very happy to see. Now, last year it was either during Gamescom, I think it was during Gamescom when they introduced, they were talking about, the Game Changer ship, and I said, what we need in the game, what I was hoping for, is a ship that can transport ground vehicles, so I can actually get all that massive amount of ground vehicles I have down to a planet, including, the tank. And they had made another statement later, like, oh yeah, if you summon the tank, you kind of have to leave the tank right where you summoned it, which I thought was complete garbage of an idea. So I'm really excited to see this ship come in, because it really does fill a role that the universe needs. And whether you own one yourself or you hire somebody to get your vehicle down, if you're doing a base assault or just transporting race ships from one planet to another, this ship's got enough cargo capacity to get the job done. Now, there are 3 variants of this ship, and got some basic information here for you. The C2 variant carries 625 estimated cargo units, and also can carry 2 tanks. It's your pure transport model. The M2 can also carry 2 tanks, and it's more of your mid-range ship with 468 cargo. The A2 only carries 234 and 1 tank, and what's different about this one is it only front loads, where the other ships let you drive the vehicle straight through, and that's because of the bomb bay in the back. The crew size for the cargo variant is 2, the crew size for the M2 is 3, and the assault variant, the A2, jumps up to 9, 8 in the ship and 1 in the bomb bay.
Which seems kind of strange, like they want to have, I don't know, some kind of manned turrets on the things, which we've talked about time and time again, almost every episode.
You mean remotely manned?
I guess, but still, manned turrets don't work.
Well, yeah, the ones on this ship are remotely manned, so you sit down at stations, and that's kind of a direction I was kind of wondering why they didn't take.
The Retaliator's concept art, where they showed these things, and in the actual, what's that new ship that just came out?
The Hercules?
No, I think it's in the flight now. You have it, my big arm, grabby Reclaimer.
The Reclaimer.
Reclaimer! It's got remote turrets. But, that all started from the Retaliator concept art. But yet, we don't have them in that because f***ing reasons.
Well, the reason I like the turrets you control from the consoles as opposed to the bubble ones is because when you're designing a bubble turret, you're kind of limited to a degree of how that turret can move. If it's remote, you can do all sorts of interesting things with it so that it can spin or track or change orientation to follow a target that you really can't do when there's a bubble canopy in the middle with guns strapped to the side. Now, as far as carrying spaceships inside of it, it does kind of act like a mini carrier. You can put something like an Argo, a P-52, Razor, an 85X, M50, those kind of size ships, maybe even an Aurora. There's no repair facilities in there, so it's strictly for transportation or, just someone doesn't want to spend their own gas money.
Well, as soon as they give us the hand repairing things,
yeah,
I imagine if For example, like let's say your shield's dropped and you kind of got shot up and your armor's a little bit damaged. I imagine you can go in there and get out your little hand welder and like weld up the armor and stuff. But any major damage, I imagine you have to take it somewhere to get fixed.
Yeah. You just take them to a planet. You just go vertical. You open the back door, and problem solves itself. Now, the firepower of the ships is pretty close until you get to the assault variant. So let's start with the C2 and the M2. They both have 2 size 4 fixed front weaponry and 2 size 3 turrets in the back. Well, one's back and one's kind of underneath the belly. The military variant, the M2, also has a turret in the nose. So the difference between those two is basically, if you're comparing them, is the cargo variant gets about 30% more cargo and doesn't get a chin turret. So basically, they're the same. They get medium armor, but it's the assault variant that is an entirely different animal. Not only does it get all the weapons I just told you about, but it also gets 2 size 4 ballistic gatlings on the back, and also additional 2 size 5 ballistic cannons in the back. They're kind of like underneath the back wing, and there's some that are underneath the... I'll have pictures up, you'll see. But
so
basically,
when it gets behind it, it goes pew pew ka-chew.
Oh yeah. So this ship is made to lay waste to anything underneath it that survives the bombing run when you drop 4 MOABs on them, or 60 size 3 cluster bombs. So for me, if there was a variant I would get, it would probably be the assault variant, because I already have like a Hull C that can carry way more cargo. And I don't feel that losing that cargo for an extra chin turret is worth it. But also the assault variant also sports heavy armor. So not only are you dealing with the fact that it fills a role that hasn't been in the game, which is cargo transport, but another role that's new to the game, which is the bomber.
Which apparently they are going to have different types. The torpedo is not the same as a bomb, so there'll be a split. And like bombs are only for hitting ground targets, where torpedoes are more for attacking like capital ships and stations and things.
Right. Now what I'm wondering, looking at the new mechanic, there's no reason that the Retaliator couldn't just have, like, the area where we have those big torpedoes, fill that all up with cluster bombs and just open the doors at the bottom and just drop them out. I can see there being, since the Retaliator is modular, you can put
the fact that it was made to do that role. It starts off like, for example, you have a planet. You're on a planet. There's a ground base. You like regular military or whatever. Except for rather than flying over an ocean and bombing things, you fly out of the atmosphere, go to a different planetary system, and then bomb things. I believe there was a lore story that they wrote up about some war veteran guy, or like a not veteran, the war correspondents, like the reporters or whatever, and he like flew with a Retaliator team and they went and bombed some target on a planet. That sounds like a bombing run, like a regular traditional one, not a torpedo run. So it'd be very suspect if they did not have it able to swap out the torpedoes for bombs.
True. Now each of these ships also has 2 floors, the upper floor being the living quarters and whatnot. Basically, you have enough living space for the crew requirements. There's no additional, so you don't have living space for, say, people who are going to operate the tanks. The ship is mostly just transport. I don't really agree with this particular setup. I think it's important, because you might be taking, for example, if you're going to do a base run and you're doing a long run, and you're going to bomb the base, go over behind a hill, land, deploy the tank, and then give them cover support from the air. Because in some regards, the way those guns are reminds me of a Hercules bird, with a big gun out the side. So you're going to be basically circling whenever the tank is going in on, or the ground forces, and laying down support fire with the ship. In my point of view. Of course, I may be wrong. The ship may not handle like that. But when I look at those guns pointing up the side and kind of pointing down, that's kind of what it says to me.
I understand why they do that. In my opinion, it makes perfect sense. And oh no, we have a different opinion. But
get off my show.
To me, it makes sense that this is like your initial vehicle transport ship, because the Idris has a ridiculously huge ramp, and they've shown it and had varying successes in getting into the ship. But to me, I imagine you're going to have, I hate to say it, like a variant of the Idris that is a vehicle transport one, which maybe it has extra fuel tanks to fill up the tanks of your ground vehicles, because that's a ship that's designed to support more people, where the Hercules is more like a regular I don't remember what the military uses right now, like a C7 or something, where you can put 2 or 3 tanks in there, but you don't need crew for them. You're just transporting them to where they need to be. And that's what this ship is to me. It's kind of like your just general purpose cargo ship, but it's big enough to transport, like, trucks and jeeps and tanks and ammunition for those vehicles. That's what it is to me.
It's a Herky Bird.
Well, yeah, but the C-130 can't carry tanks.
This is the Star System space version of it.
Yeah, but there's a one that is designed to carry those things. It's absolutely massive. I think C7, but I could be wrong. I'd have to Google it, and I'm not going to Google it right now. So feel free to correct me in the comments of which military when I'm talking about that you can drive in like 3 or 4 Abrams. Like maybe it's 2 or 3.
Well, just before I proceed here, just to let you know, the speed on the ship and the range is right between the Caterpillar and the Starfarer, so it kind of holds a sweet spot. They estimate about 130 meters per second as a top speed, of normal flight. Now, you had mentioned the Idris a minute ago, like that ramp, and it's a tangent, but let me bring this up. Because that ramp does look ridiculous. I'm gonna call it, there's no way that they would have a ramp like that. You know what would happen on that ship? And the more I've looked at that video, there would be a mechanism after it's down that would lower the body, like it would slide down a little bit to get as low as possible, have a much shorter ramp. Now, the reason I'm thinking that is because of, like, they got more advanced, the more advanced landing mechanics they've learned from the Reclaimer. They could take that and, to some extent, I thought, apply that to the Idris and have it get much closer to the ground after landing and make that ramp much smaller.
It's been a long time since I've seen that video. I remember it being absolutely ridiculous watching it.
Yes, that ramp is like excited. A football field in length.
Yeah, but you wouldn't have something like that. You'd have it get very, very low to the ground. I mean, even like modern day VTOL jets or whatever, they don't have to be 10 feet off the ground. They don't. They work around that. Yeah.
Yeah, I personally think that's something that's got to be redone, because that ramp I thought looked really weird.
It is one of the first capital ships,
it
so they've learned a lot of stuff since doing that.
Hence the Polaris.
Kinda, but I mean, if they redo it, I imagine they could do it better. But because it's such a huge ship, it might not be possible to fix it. So it might just be one of those things that it's gonna be known as the derp ship or something.
The derp ship.
If I thought of a better pun like it, I'd do it, but it's all I think is just derp.
So, my personal opinion on this ship, as a final thought, is it worth getting? I think it's a solid ship. I really do. No matter what variant you get, I still think that the cargo
remind me of the prices before you say you should go buy this ship.
Well, the prices I saw, because early, I think it was like 200, was it 200, 300, and 600 or something? No, it was 300, 400, and 600. That's what it was.
Yeah, and, I remember you said the 600. I'm like, whoa, it's not worth $600 to me.
Yeah, I really like the assault one, though. Maybe someday, if I'm lucky, I'll get one. Before we jump off into calling all devs, gonna talk a bit about the Anvil Hurricane,
which you don't want to talk about, but I do.
I know, and that's why I brought it up. I was actually gonna skip this whole ship because I'm not a fan of it.
I actually watched that, so, surprise. And so when they got to the Hurricane section, I mean, I think I was playing BattleTech at the time, so I was like half listening, half watching. And they started talking about the Hurricane, and they're like, yeah, it's designed to form up in wings and go destroy capital ships. And I stopped what I was doing, and I was like, excuse me? And so I was listening, and they're like, oh, yeah, because it's got these huge guns. They're 4 size 3s. That's not huge. I mean, maybe it could possibly hurt a Connie, especially if there was multiples. But I can't imagine size 3 guns doing anything to like an Idris or a Polaris or even an Orion or a Reclaimer. That just seems ridiculous.
Yeah, maybe the shields are down.
Not even then, probably. I mean, the Polaris has capital grade armor, right?
Right, it's true.
Yeah, so to me, I mean, this is just my opinion. When they think of this role, like, I want to make a ship that fits in this role, they think of a role and they tell it to the concept guys, and the concept guys go do, and here you go. Is this the ship you want? And they go, oh man, it looks great, but they're limited by the concept art, and then they kind of like, oh well, this is what the ship role should be, but most likely it's not going to be able to do that. I mean, if it was, instead of 4 size 3 guns on a turret, and it had like modern military vehicles have like a APC. It's got wheels, like 4 wheels, whatever. It's designed to be all-terrain, but on the top of them, they have a remote turret with missiles in them. And if it had some kind of like slightly raised up missile launcher thing on the top that was like not gimbaled, but like you could turn left and right or whatever to aim better, and it had like size 4 or 5 missiles in there, whatever
those would be big, yeah.
Well, the
size 2s at least.
Well, the Gladiator, right? It's got like size 5s or something there, doesn't it?
Yeah, but they're actually torpedoes.
That's what I mean. So if you want to be an anti-capital ship fighter, why wouldn't it have like baby torpedoes or gigantic missiles on it that would actually do something? So it's like they made this role, and this is what it should be. But to me, with the way they're making their game, I don't think it's going to do that. I think it's just going to get blown up by anything bigger than a Connie.
The biggest problem I have with it is that this is why I didn't get it, and I don't think it was one of the more successful. I think it was one of the least successful fighters, because majority of its firepower is tied up into a turret that has to be controlled by another person, and turret gameplay is bad because of pacing and the design of turrets.
And their physical weapons.
Yeah, and their physical weapons, because it's already hard to hit with turrets. Now strap on basically the ammo limitation, and you've hit a couple times and you're out of ammo. To me, this ship, and I guess that's why you only attack large ships with it, and that kind of makes sense because what else could you hit? But they're saying, oh, it's a glass cannon, and I'm like,
can't have a glass cannon that's like anti-capital ship.
Yeah, I would say if I had to define it, I would say it would be like something that would go after maybe a Connie or a Freelancer and do pretty well. But would it go after something larger, like much larger? No. But in groups, I guess anything can do damage in groups. I mean, heck, an A-wing took down the Super Star Destroyer. I'm just saying. the thing is that
if the turret was on the bottom, I'd think of it as a ground attack vehicle.
Yeah, see, that would make a bit more sense to me. I mean, I don't know. There's nothing wrong with the turret on the belly sometimes, but anyway, the point is that I don't think the ship's could be all that they're making it out to be, and that's one of the reasons that I'm just not really interested in it. I think they've had better designs. They talked about
the Hurricane, and we had lots of problems with them talking about it.
As usual. On to calling all devs. We're changing the way we're doing this just a little bit, so take it away, Lightning.
Yeah, so basically, we're just not going to read verbatim. So they talked about Weapons 2.0 as Cisco Lando claimed it, and they're going to do different firing modes, burst, rapid fire, things like that. They talked about heat mechanics, so that's kind of cool. At first, I thought they were talking about ship guns, but then they started talking about FPS ones, so it could be both. They also talked about like the citizen lore, and you'll be able to access that in-game, hopefully. Quantum drive, people ask why you couldn't use it in the asteroid fields because of the way they do it. So you can't do that because raycasting. They might fix it later, it just depends.
Yeah, and they also talked about the update to the performance and usability on hover bikes, and I can tell you right now, I took my yesterday I took my Nox out on the PTU, and all I did was flip end over end and over end until I exploded, and I just kind of sat there and went, "Quick game, it's BattleTech time." So I was like, "Yeah, that's
still broken."
Yeah,
part of it is latency, because the way they're doing it is like a spring mechanic. It's basically an invisible spring that's underneath your vehicle. So if you start lagging, the spring doesn't work right, and desyncs, crashes, explodes. One interesting thing in this section, because I mean it's Pritchett, we both like him here. Is he was talking about the style of hover. So basically, he made the system, and it's like a ride height adjustable. So the Nox would be like your sport bike. It's really low to the ground. It's fast. And then your Dragonfly it's higher up. It's more like an ATV, a four-wheeler or something. But I mentioned this to you before you watched the show, and you were basically saying that they invalidated all this kind of stuff by making the ships able to fly.
Yeah, a little bit. And it was even said in the initial pitch, and it was asked in the Q&A, will these be able to fly in atmosphere? They said no, they will not be. And then people were like, okay, great, we don't want that. And then if you go on the forums right now and look at the complaint threads for, like, you don't see many people. It's like maybe 1 out of 20, maybe 1 out of 30 that goes, I actually like the fact that it flies. Everyone else is like, you get that crap out of here. You ruin the whole purpose of the vehicle. It's just like post after post after post. People don't want these things to fly except in space, where they're originally pitched. And you go back to that first demo where they showed the nicer planet with the trees and whatnot, and they go to the crashed
Javelin?
Yeah, the crashed Javelin. Sorry, so many ships, the names fall out of my head nowadays.
I know. I was thinking the same thing.
So the thing is that on that one, that you flew over in the beginning, they flying over this area. Says, oh, this is not a safe area. You need to land. And that's why they had to get the ground vehicle out. Well, the whole idea of the bikes and the ground vehicles is to deal with situations where flight isn't optimal or could get you like spotted by radar or whatnot. And I don't know. To me, it's like you lose some character where you can just, oh, there's an obstacle. Well, I'm just gonna go up and over everything. I don't know. It loses something to me.
Pritchett, not they really. Pritchett did say that they're probably going to be balancing this out with like thrusters. So you'd have thrusters that would be counteracting your the gravity.
Yeah, hopefully pull. Fuel limits too.
So yeah, if you go into flight mode, you're kind of be like going from getting 30 miles to the gallon to getting like 5, hopefully. So that's an interesting way to kind of put it. So like, for example, if there's like a big huge, I don't know, like a crater or something, and instead of driving all the way around, you just fly over it really quick, and you're like, oh, well, that's gonna be more efficient on fuel. I can see that, as opposed to, oh geez, now I have to drive all the way around that, because that's a big limitation on ground vehicles, is sometimes especially with the mostly procedurally generated terrain, sometimes you're just going to be stuck, right? So having the ability to fly over things, while I don't fully agree with it, I can understand why they did it. Sometimes you just got to Dukes of Daymar it. Oh, here it goes. Vroom, vroom, vroom.
Long about now, I bet that boy wishes he had a parachute.
Yeah, basically.
But yeah, I mean, if they bounce it off with the fuel limits, then I won't be so upset by it. Like, if as you said, if you crank it up and you fly, and you can't you can't get where you're going because you burned up all your fuel, fine, that's fine. But this is why I think a lot of times we need Item System 2.0, not only to get these kind of mechanics to balance out things, but for certain problems, I think I think they're not recognizing, because we just need to get 2.0 in and it'll be fine. It'll all work itself out. Or I think the more levels of complexity to add to the game, the more I think the big red shining light. And by the way, this is the one thing I disagree with Pritchett on this. They said they're trying to get ESP working with the change, and that's why combat is currently terrible. No, sir. I have to disagree with you there. The Band-Aid is not causing the artery bleed. So the ESP is a Band-Aid to cover a serious problem, and it doesn't even do a good job of that. You can work on ESP all day and all night. It's not going to fix the underlying problems. It is a Band-Aid. It's not a good one. It's never going to be a good one, not until you address the underlying issues of unified controls. Until everyone is playing the same game and has the same access to the same systems, you can ESP 2.0, come up with some other weird, system that does some other funky thing. You only balance things that are in the game. You don't balance things on people's desks. Once you do that, you bypass all that. Right now, I'm doing testing, of course, on Infinity Battlescape, and their system feels really good, whether I'm using a stick or I'm using a mouse. And this week, I should be getting my access key to Starfighter Incorporated. They said they should have it up by Wednesday at the latest. And I can't show footage of that. It will be underneath an NDA until it goes beta. But I have a very little doubt that they're going to nail it right, too, as far as the controls go. Only in Star Citizen have I seen these issues before. Most times games just split the servers and call it a day. Never have I seen this obstinance. But The rest of it was pretty interesting. ESP, you're wrong. You're going to be wrong tomorrow. You're going to be wrong after you fix it. I'm sorry, but that's just how it is. Bad idea is a bad idea.
They also talked a bit about the IFCS.
Yeah. Which is really great with bad stats put into it, which negates all the stuff that's good in it. So
it's a really strong system until you plug in the wrong numbers.
Exactly. And that pretty much goes for anything. I mean, a calculator will always give you the right answer if you actually put the numbers in that are correct. All right, back onto our last topic here is kind of a note as our channel moves more into a free-form kind of always BlastCast and then whatever the heck we want. We don't know what we're doing this week. We have an idea. We're discussing it. We're hashing it out. I'm letting Lightning taking the lead on this, and we'll see what happens. See how badly he messes this up. No, just kidding.
No, the thing I want to do, I kind of want to wait a little bit just because of how things are kind of coming in. So that'll be more of the big show, probably in about a week or two. Just depends on updates to certain games.
That's
or
true.
Lack of updates for certain games.
Well then, who knows what's next? So we will catch you on the next BlastCast. Thanks for listening, and leave all your comments and good stuff down below.
Bye-bye.